This week I went to Birmingham to St Andrew's Football Stadium to pay my respects to Trevor Francis, my boyhood hero, who died last week at the very young age of 69. And I wanted to go up and pay my respects. So I was looking around at the people there, and there were a lot of older guys my age, elders as I call them, in all the old kits, and they were chatting away to the younger supporters, telling them presumably about their first-hand experience about seeing Trevor Francis play for Birmingham City when he was 16 and he was known as Superboy before he went on to become Britain's first £1 million player. And I was taken with the way in which the respect in which the young people were giving to the older people in terms of their wisdom and their memories. And it struck me that we have no time for elders. We've lost that connection. And yet elders are so vital in other parts of the world, especially in those indigenous tribes that still remain. And I was looking at something as to what elders are described as, because you cannot connect elders with the same thing in the Western world. Native American elders, and that goes the same for many sort of tribal elders around the world, are revered, keyword, revered individuals who provide wisdom and leadership for their tribes by exuding grace and wisdom and gentleness in their daily words and actions. They tell stories. They keep the living community together through history. They keep an eye on it. And I remember in the 70s and 80s growing up, the older men at football grounds kept an eye on the younger hotheads. There was a sort of order of seniority to keep everything in check. And it worked. Then suddenly it didn't. And I take it at that time when fans were properly segregated, that's when the trouble kicked off, big time. Because in the old days, you could mingle with away supporters and chat about their good players, their terrible players. It was part of the whole experience. And so there was that disconnection between elders and younger people. Younger people got angrier and elders backed away in the football community. But looking at Trevor's shrine the other day, I realised how much of a vital role they still have, more than ever, when we look at the issues that young men have with mental health and lack of direction, lack of male role models. It frightens me that they've got nobody to bounce off, nobody physically strong to say, no, you can't do that, to give them the boundaries. Mothers are amazing, but they don't have that link, that bond. And I saw glimpses of it. And I know it's the future, is to get that connection between old and young. And football's a great place to start because every town has one or two clubs with the same amount of passion, the same amount of loyalty, and the same spread of males watching football. And that's a great leveller. We've all got a role to do. We've all got a place in football, as supporters and players, and in sport. The power of community is incredible, and no stronger than it is at football. And yet, if you look up elders on the internet for Western society, for British society, it doesn't seem to appear. All you get is elderly and the problems of being old, the fact that they're disenfranchised, that they have no power, it's gone. They have no purpose or meaning. They have no role to play. And it's so wrong. Everything now is an economic test. Yet People over 65 contribute £60 billion to the economy. It's not about money. Initially, it's about community and about the power of society holding itself together and not going off the rails. And elders have their place in their wisdom. They've done it, they've seen it, and they can stop young lads from going off the rails or help them or direct them into finding something better for themselves. But these young lads have got nobody. They take guidance from their own peer group. And we know where that ends up. If elders have a role to play, it's in sport, and especially in football. Their wisdom, their experience, you cannot replace that. You can't recreate it. It only exists because of time. It's the missing link that was there all along. The living culture of past, present, and future. And it's in the hands of those guys, paying their respects to Trevor Francis. And I thank you, Trevor, yet again. I spent the whole day thanking Trevor Francis. I thank Trevor for giving me that aha moment, thinking, I've got to mention this, I've got to say something. And maybe football's a place where we can start to bring the elders into positions where they can have some kind of say, voice, authority, and re-inhabit their rightful position as the ones who are wise and calming and who offer solutions for young men who so desperately need their counsel.